So in this video, we're going to talk about tips for adjuster meetings, being successful, as well as how to prepare the customer for the adjuster meeting process. Clay, as you all know, has probably one of the highest approval ratings within the company. So we want to have some of his expertise on this topic. So in starting, before we even get to the adjuster meeting, how do you want to coach the customer?
Well, it's super important. One of the most important things of what we do here at Four Star is to make sure we set up the adjuster meeting properly. And it starts with your conversation with the customer. You have to make sure that you prepare the customer and educate the customer that we need to control this situation from the start to the finish. And so the customer is going to get a call from the insurance adjuster to come out and set an estimate. An inspection time. And when that adjuster calls that customer, the first thing you want your customer prepared to do, it's one of the most important things we say to them is have the adjuster call me. Here's my card, here's my number. Please make sure he calls me because I'm going to need to set this inspection time and date to where it works for me. I'm all over the state. I have lots of customers. I keep a very busy schedule. I'm usually booked out a week or two in advance. So he cannot just come on the day he wants to come. I'm going to need to pick that date with him. So when the adjuster calls, have him call me. I'm going to set that time and date, and I will follow up with you, Mr. Customer, and let you know when that inspection is going to be taking place. Because I need to come out previous to this adjuster and set my presentation together and make it undeniable. I'm going to need to do test areas on every elevation of the roof, which is going to take me hours of work to do. And so it's really important that I get my presentation down to make sure that this roof is undeniable before this adjuster ever arrives. When he does get there, I'll be waiting at the top of the ladder for him. So that's the most important thing you do at the beginning. You tell the customer, do not let this adjuster come out here without me. Make sure that he is aware that he has to be on the roof with me and that he has to set the appointment with me to inspect the roof.
Have you ever experienced it where you will have an adjuster drop by a location Definitely. And tell the building owner, oh, we're just in the area. If we don't go ahead and do the inspection today, we're not going to be available for a month or 2 months. Do you coach the customer
Yes.
on the potential for that?
Very good point. Make sure you tell the customer, if he tries to come by without me, either says, hey, I'm coming by on this day no matter what, or he just shows up unannounced, you tell him, no, I need you to meet with my contractor. That's why I have a contractor. I want him to be present on the roof when you do the inspection. I can't be there. I run this business. I'm very busy and I can't be up on the roof with you. And I don't want to be on the roof with you. So I have somebody representing me. So please, you cannot look at the roof today. I'm sorry. I need you to set a schedule with my contractor of when you're going to come out and do this inspection. And that's how I want this done. You are the customer. You are in control of this situation, and it is your building and it is your roof. You tell the adjuster when he is going to meet and where and who with.
So that was my next question. What do you do when the adjuster calls you?
When the adjuster calls me, the first thing that they usually try to do is tell me when they want to come and look at the roof. And as with sales in any form, any industry, you always want to control your sale. And you are selling to the adjuster, just like we sell to the customer. And just like it is with the customer, you want to control the sale. So the first thing they do is tell me, hey, I want to come out on Monday at 9 a.m. And I always say, I'm not available no matter what. I always say, I'm not available Monday at 9 a.m. So Monday at 9 a.m. doesn't work for me. Let me look at my schedule real quick. Hey, guess what? I'm available on Tuesday at 1. You can come see me at Tuesday at 1 if that works for you. How does that work with your schedule? And so we go back and forth with the adjuster on what schedule works for them and what times we have that work for them. But we take control of the situation from the get-go. We want to make sure from the start of this thing that the adjuster knows I'm in control of this situation. I'm representing the customer, and I'm contracted with this customer to handle this situation.
Okay. Now, when it comes to the actual adjuster meeting, what are some tips for that?
Okay. First thing I do is to go prepare for this adjuster meeting is I show up the day before or the morning of, depending on what time I've booked. If I booked them in the morning, then I'll come out the day before and mark the roof the day before. Always watching the weather to make sure whatever work I do isn't going to get just washed off by rain overnight or something. But if that works out with the weather, I'll come the day before and mark the roof. However, if I have an afternoon adjuster meeting, I will go out there sometimes on the morning of and mark it all morning until it's done. So it's real important that when you get to the building, you pick a good spot to put your ladder up. And that's going to be the point that you want to probably take the adjuster up the next day. And so when you get on the roof, you're going to pick a good spot that works for you to put a ladder up to where you're not going to be in the way of any of the customers parking or any operations of their business, forklifts going by, things like that. You want to get out of the way. But when you get on the roof from that point, you want to go find a spot close by to where you put your ladder to mark your first test area, your 10 by 10, your 10 foot by 10 foot test area that the insurance adjuster is going to need. So you're going to mark that area. You're going to look for a good cluster of hail together, and you're going to pick that spot and start marking hail. Don't just go mark your 10 by 10 area out first. Go find hail first, mark hail, get as much as you can going in an area, and then you can mark the corners of that 10 by 10 later. Also, from the ladder, I will have my metal gauge on the metal right there at the ladder. So the first thing he sees is that I've got it set on the gauge of the thickness of the metal. So when the adjuster gets to the top of the ladder, that's the first picture he can take, is how thick the metal is. When the adjuster gets off the ladder, I'm actually going to have hail marked almost like a yellow brick road all the way to my first square. All the way to my first test square, he's going to see hail when he gets off the ladder. So he's going to immediately say, wow, okay, we've got damage. So I'm setting the stage. I'm selling this to the adjuster that this is a claim, this is a valid claim, and he's going to end up paying this customer today. So we go to the first square. I lead him over there by the yellow brick road path that I've made, and I show him a square with at least 10 or more hits. They need 8, but here's why I always say you need 10 or more hits. Because what you think are solid hits on this square may not be solid hits to the adjuster. He may be more picky than we are about what is a hail hit and what is not. He may think one of them is football on a seam. He may think one of your hits might be old damage that's from a previous hailstorm. He might think one of your hits might be mechanical damage, like a hammer dropped on the roof, and not necessarily a hail hit. So you want to make sure you have 10 or more hits so that you have 8 good solid hits that he can use to get that test square approved as part of the claim. From that point, I'm going to show him hits on the trim. There will be hits all over the trim on the side of the side edges of the building, on the trim areas. All along the gutters, I will have hits on the gutters as well. The peak of the roof, I will have hits on that area. And then I will take my next test area and put it on the opposite corner of where I put the first test area. So that what I'm showing the adjuster is that there's hail from corner to corner of this roof, front to back, corner to corner. So I've got a test area on this side of the roof. Over here, I've got a test area on this side of the roof, the opposite corner. If there's another elevation, another hop up from there, I'm going to hop up onto that next elevation. I'm going to mark test squares on every one of those elevations as well to make sure that I've got every elevation covered for the adjuster. So before the adjuster ever shows up, I have gutters marked, I have downspouts marked, I have trim marked, I have ridge cap marked, heater vents, everything that's got hail on it is marked, and I have my however many squares, test squares I need done on that roof, depending on how many elevations there are. So that is all ready before the adjuster arrives, and the first thing he sees is the metal gauge, the wheel of the metal gauge on the metal to tell him what the thickness of the metal is.
And there's no dispute. There's no delay. There's nobody that has to go back out and take photos, because I think what a lot of people don't realize is that usually the field adjuster is reporting to someone else, and they have to have photographs to justify whether they're paying that claim or not.
Correct.
So
our adjusters that we work with here in Oklahoma, they love us because they know that when they have a 4-star claim, they're not going to have to do anything but come out and take pictures. they tell us stories about other roofing companies that they meet out for an adjuster meeting, and the roofer never gets out of his truck. The roofer never puts his ladder up. The roofer's not even on the roof with him while he does the inspection. We're full service. We treat the adjuster as if he's the customer, as if we need to sell him just like we sell the customer. So we treat these adjusters really well. They like us. We make their life easy. We help them get from one claim to another. We even tell them that, hey, we're going to have this done for you every claim we ever do with you. We're going to have it ready like this for you. So all you have to do is show up and take your pictures and get on to the next claim. And they say, wow, thank you so much for doing that. That helps me to not have to do all this, because they hate to get down on their hands and knees and mark hail and mark test areas, right? So guess what they do? A lot of them will not mark them at all. If we're not there, guess what happens to the customer?
Yeah.
They get denied. So this is what we're doing to ensure for the customer that they don't get denied. We're marking this roof up. We're also making it very easy for the adjuster so that when he or she shows up, they know that there's, with 4-Star, everything's going to be marked and ready. All they have to do is take their pictures and then go down and talk to the customer and tell them they're approved.
And they know you have done your due diligence and that you don't call them out on just any roof.
Right. I tell every adjuster that I work with, hey, we're not going to drag you out if it's not a valid claim. We're not going to make you come out to a building and climb up on here if it's not a valid claim. We're not going to waste the customer's time, the adjuster's time, or our time at 4-Star to go after a claim that's not valid. So when you see me, you know I've looked at the situation. I'm contracted with this customer to do the work, and I'm also very confident that we have enough damage that it's a valid hail claim.
Now, when the adjuster arrives, do you do the walk around the building first
Sure.
with the adjuster?
Yep. When the customer arrives, a lot of the time they might want to go inside first and meet the customer. I do go in with them and stay kind of in his hip pocket for that, so that I'm listening to what he's saying to the customer and adding my 2 cents if I need to. A lot of the time they'll go through the building and look for any inside damage they may have, and take pictures of ceiling tiles that are wet or whatever, just looking for any interior leaks. And then when they go outside the building, they're going to walk the perimeter and take pictures of all of the sidewalls, downspouts, windows, different things like that that could have hail damage on them. A lot of what we're looking for at that point, and we're pointing out to the adjuster, is, hey, look at this door. Look at all the hail spatter on this door. That's from that recent storm on the hail date that this customer filed on. So also I've got some other spots here that I want to show you where there are spatter on the downspouts. We point out spatter, spatter, spatter when we do the loop around the building and take the pictures. We're making sure we're pointing out how many downspouts have damage, how many garage doors have damage, how many just regular doors have damage. They may not pay for every single one of those things, but we're going to make sure that we are showing as much collateral damage as we can to build up the claim and make it a valid claim.
And what do you do if the situation becomes somewhat adversarial? If you get some pushback or some of the dialogue is a little...
It doesn't happen very often, honestly. However, when they do, if the adjuster says, hey, this looks like minor damage to me, or this doesn't really look like we should be replacing this, I always go back and say, hey, look, I'm not here to argue with you. I'm a damage specialist. And what I'm here to do today is show you damage. I'm showing you damage. It's valid damage. And I guess my only point that I make to the adjuster at that point is that my job is to show you that this is no longer the sidewall that this customer paid for when they built the building. This is no longer the sidewall that this insurance company has insured. It's damaged now. So you now have a different situation. If this was the hood of a car, you'd pay for the hood of a car. So why would you not pay for downspouts that are damaged, or a roof that's damaged, just even if it's minor damage? Or, hey, sometimes they say, well, this is small hail. Hail is hail. Damage is damage, and that's all I'm here to show you today, is to show you that there was a hailstorm and that they do have damage in this roof. How big the hail is and all that doesn't really matter. It's, do they have damage? So I do point that out to the adjuster if they push back.
Okay. And you don't get into that cosmetic versus functional argument unless there is a cosmetic waiver in place.
If there's a cosmetic waiver in place, the first thing we do is we will mark the roof for a situation that has a cosmetic waiver, which would be, as far as our panel is concerned, obviously we're going to look at the seams, and we're going to try and look for fish mouth open hits, open seams where we've got a seam pop from a hail hit. And we will walk the entire roof Every single panel, we walk up and down the screw lines and mark every single one of those for that adjuster. And so, in a cosmetic damage waiver situation, the adjuster is less concerned about what kind of damage is in the field of the metal. They're going to be more concerned about, is there any structural damage? And so I don't talk functional, non-functional with them. I tell them that functional and non-functional to me is a myth and it's a made-up word, but I will talk structural damage with you, and I found structural damage on the seams, and here they are. Here I've got 20 different hits on this roof, all over the span of this roof, that show that you have open seams on this roof. And so that's very important in beating a cosmetic waiver.
Okay, that's very good. I had thought about going that approach.
Yeah. Also, at the end of the adjuster meeting, we ask, what are your thoughts? Do you have any concerns or anything you need from me further? And we wait for them to reply to that. And if they don't have any major concerns or anything like that, we tell them, what can we do for you? We have a sky measure on this. Do you have a sky measure? Do you have the building measured yet? No, I'd love to have a copy of your sky measure. We try and accommodate them and say, I can get this for you. Hey, I've got a hail report. Do you need my hail report? Yes, I would love to have a copy of your hail report. And that just kind of builds the relationship with the adjuster. At this point, after 7 years of doing this, almost every adjuster in the state of Oklahoma knows, me and Troy and the other guys that have been here at 4-Star for a long time. They know us. They know when they see us on a roof, they're paying for it. We would not have drugged them out if they weren't. So we've built this relationship with them. We've built trust with them. They know that we're honest, hardworking guys. This is how we feed our family. We are not out trying to get a roof paid for that's not a valid, legit claim. And they know that about us. I had an adjuster not too long ago who was climbing up the ladder behind me, said, Clay, I know you wouldn't have drugged me out to Woodward, Oklahoma if I wasn't paying for this roof. And I turned around, looked at him, and I said, Jack, you're paying for this roof today. And he laughed and he said, well, okay then. So we have that kind of relationship over time with these adjusters. There's only a couple of adjusters in Oklahoma that are difficult to work with for us. The rest of them, they know us, they like us, and they're very easy to work with. And they know that we're going to be there for them to help build the estimate if we need to, or to at least go back and forth on coming to an agreement on the estimate as to what this customer needs to get this roof done properly. So from that point on, your adjuster meeting is not necessarily over. You're going to part ways, and he's going to go home and build his estimate. He may ask us to build an estimate on our side too, and then we put those two estimates together and see how we match up. And if there's any differences, then we just go back and forth until we get an agreement on the scope of the job. But that actually is not a difficult process. It's just it does drag things out a little bit, but you have to stay firm and call that adjuster often, text them, email them, just be in constant contact on, hey, how's your estimate coming? We're done with ours. Can we get together on this scope today and see if we can hash this out and get this done? And then it's all about, hey, how quickly can we get this customer their first check? They're really wanting us to start this job soon, and I need to order materials, but I'm not going to order my materials till I know that first check is on the way. So we're already talking and assuming that this is paid for, the check is coming, and we were ready to order materials.
That's a good way to expedite it. Now, are you having this conversation with the field adjuster or the desk adjuster at this point?
A field adjuster at this point, but then it will evolve at some point to where we start working with the desk adjuster, especially if the field adjuster is an independent.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Anything else?
I think that's pretty much it. I mean, obviously there's more to it than that, but I think that that's probably the main points that I wanted to hit today, just to make sure that it's all strategy. It's a game of chess, and they're coming out and they're making moves, and you have to be prepared for those moves. You got to kind of know what moves they're going to make before they make them. And it doesn't happen without you getting experience. So when you're new, we'll be here to help you when you're new. You can call us. Those of you guys that are here in Oklahoma, we're going to, Troy and I are going to go with you to your adjuster meetings at first and help you through those. But it's definitely a process of learning. And I think it is what I do best, meeting with the adjuster.